Have you listened to Joe Rogan?
A lot at the beginning. Yes, I don't listen to any podcasts at all. I have no horse in this race.
Because I have this epiphany. I'm like, oh, he's like the biggest podcast. I never actually listened to him. So I listened to an episode and I'm like, oh, he's actually, respectfully, very dumb.
Let them fight.
A bizarre feud brewing, apparently, or, well, perhaps just an off-the-cuff comment that got the media that is always thirsting for any anti-Joe Rogan coverage available on the market. But apparently, PewDiePie referred to Joe Rogan as stupid and has a problem with there being too many podcasts. Now, this is a tough one for me because I enjoy both of them. Mostly for like who they are, not necessarily what their content is. I don't really listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. I watch clips of it, or somebody, it would take like Elon Musk or Trump or, you know, somebody like really, you know, interesting to me to sit through a 3-hour podcast, listening to it as opposed to the clips. But I do watch a lot of clips. I don't think that Joe Rogan is stupid. I thought it was a weird take. And also, apparently, Zelenskyy begged to be on the Joe Rogan Experience, to which Joe Rogan said, no thanks. Now, Zelenskyy's first language isn't English, so I can't imagine it would have gone over that well. And the guy's already taking enough from us. I don't think I need... Huck's extra needy today. Right, Baba? Yes, thank you. All right, I know they all like you. Leave a like for Huck on the video. But let's get into this weird, kind of bizarre PewDiePie calling Joe Rogan dumb. Weird. Definitely weird. Could be clickbait, but I watched the clip. It's really not. But I don't think PewDiePie understands why Joe Rogan is popular, but I don't know. This is a weird one for me. But that said, today is the last day of all the crazy Christmas deals. Cyber Monday on my coffee company's website, Coffee Brand Coffee. We roast all of our own stuff. We package and ship all of our own stuff. 20% off all of our coffee, teas, and cocos. Up to 33% off on seasonal flavors. 10% off our advent calendar. Now remember, it's a 12 days of coffee box. So you don't need it by December 1st. It's just the 12 days of coffee, which start, you can start on the 13th. So you have definitely plenty of time to get that, or you can start it after Christmas. We also have our fully customizable gift boxes on sale for 10% off. All of the comments or all the promo codes are in the comment section down below. PewDiePie calls Joe Rogan dumb and then says that podcasts have gone too far. Look, I get the meme that everybody has a podcast. I definitely get that. I understand that. I am not a podcast listener. That is not me saying that, podcasts are not good. Their quality is, I'm sure, varies based on whose podcast it is, but the demand for podcasts is undeniable. It's, while Joe Rogan's is extremely popular, there are many people who have a podcast that nobody listens to. Like Chris Wallace saying that he has a podcast and that you should listen to that after he was fired from CNN. Don Lemon has a podcast. I don't think that he gets a lot of listeners. I actually take all my videos for the day and morph them together into an audio format for people to listen to on Spotify and Google Podcasts and all that kind of stuff. I don't have a podcast, but I do have a daily live stream. PewDiePie didn't hold back in criticizing Joe Rogan, calling him dumb after listening to parts of the podcast, while also taking aim at the medium as a whole. On November 28th, PewDiePie posted a video on his YouTube channel titled, Podcasts Have Gone Too Far. There are 3.2 million podcasts. Felix opened by saying, I told you there are too many podcasts. Your grandma's got a podcast. Your janitor's got a podcast. I'm going to disagree with Pewds here. I don't really think that's a problem. Podcasts are a format that actually have been around just as long or maybe longer than video form shows. And they've really exploded now that they've added video to them. And I think that the more podcasts there are, the better. because depending on however niche the thing you love is, being able to talk about that thing, getting or maybe earning a few bucks to just support being able to do the hobby that you love. I mean, I have a channel on remote control cars called RC Nightmare. It doesn't pay for all the RC cars that I like to have, but it offsets the cost. So where's the harm in that? In the video, PewDiePie and his friend pre-recorded, proceeded to call it a range of podcasts, says, anybody now has a podcast, specifically targeting the biggest podcast of all, the Joe Rogan Experience. I had this epiphany. I was like, oh boy, he's the biggest podcast. I've never actually even listened to him. So I listened to an episode and I'm like, oh, he's actually respectfully very dumb. Well, you listen to a single podcast. I don't know. He doesn't say, which one it is, but also like, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan's like an astrophysicist, but, Neil deGrasse Tyson is somebody that PewDiePie would probably call smart. And he doesn't even believe that gender is real. And he is an astrophysicist. It's clearly been working for him, but it just shows how dumb it is. Again, Pewds, this is really profoundly out of touch for you. You got famous playing like a gravity game of a guy in a wheelchair or playing scary games and screaming like a maniac at the TV screen. I want to agree with you. Like, does the world need a Huck Tua podcast? No, of course not. But then no one will listen to it and life will go on. This kind of comes across as just out of touch. And maybe that's the case. I mean, PewDiePie has more money than I could ever imagine. He's moved to Japan, living out his dream. He's probably doesn't really care that much about creating content anymore. I saw somewhere that showed him as a caveman. Then he brings in a scientist to be like, now you explain fire now. Explain how he works. And that kind of summarized his podcast. So he listened to one episode and called him stupid. I mean, again, that's kind of Joe's thing. He asks question. It says, Joe Rogan being of average intelligence is exactly why people watch him. You get to see smart people try to explain things to someone who isn't a complete idiot, but still has some idiotic tendencies. Kind of like the rest of us, he's relatable. Yeah, I mean, I think, there are podcasts that react to other podcasts. Fair. I agree that not everything needs to be a podcast, but...
So there's this compilation of him he's a comedian, but there's a compilation of him not understanding jokes, and it's really funny.
Joe, you were great on Friends. I wasn't on Friends. That's a joke.
My favorite one is this clip. So he's talking about the wigs that they used to wear, like those white, eloquent little wigs back in the
powdered wigs?
Yeah,
hundreds.
powdered wigs. People in court used to wear. And
yeah.
That all came from a pair of rich, noble... Where were they again? In France?
Wiggers, I think they called them.
No, wiggers are white people that wish they were black. It's just totally
the aliens are coming.
So he missed the joke. I mean, yeah, I mean, imagine doing a 3-hour podcast, having somebody on your show like Theo Vaughn, where everything he says is a joke. It's probably hard to like figure out. I mean, it is funny that he missed that.
Thank you for explaining. That's a different thing. Incredible. See, this is a lot where comedians will make a joke and he'll just be like, no, that's wrong. It's funny.
That is factually incorrect, sir. How could you?
I guess it's obvious because like he brings in a lot of people that are smart, and I think that's why his podcast is interesting.
Yeah, it's very guest based, right? Like you have a high class guests, and you get the views.
Yeah, it's clearly working for him, but it also shows just how dumb he is. I saw some like meme where it kind of...
I don't think that Joe Rogan is dumb. I think a lot of people would be considered dumb when you're talking to Elon Musk, that's weird. I don't know if there's any, I mean, it's weird. I still like Pewds, but this just comes obviously kind of out of touch, the emergence of alpha male podcasts. I've never addressed them, so I try to look up what they're actually about. He said his friend, this is where you go to lose brain cells. Discussing the overall surge on podcasting, the YouTuber Sarah remarked, it's funny because people are clearly not that interesting. Not everyone is fascinating enough to have a podcast. There also noted growing concerns of the impacts on podcasts affecting society. again, this is another brain dead take from Felix. Dude, again, you're popular because you played video games in a dark room and screamed. You were for the longest time the most popular YouTuber on the planet. And this feels like a boomer take that somebody would have said about your channel. Like, why does this guy have a channel? He reviews memes? Why does anyone need to review a meme? Or why does this guy have a channel? He plays scary video games and he screams out of his mind? That's stupid. Why would it? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's such a weird boomer take. You know, everyone gets one. I've been wrong before, obviously, and I'll be wrong again. But this comes across as profoundly out of touch, and it's a little disappointing to see coming from PewDiePie. Also revealed, Joe Rogan reveals that Volodymyr Zelenskyy, you know, is currently robbing the American people of hundreds of billions of dollars or tens of billions of dollars, whatever, tried to come on his podcast. Comedian Joe Rogan has claimed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy wanted to come on his popular podcast to Joe Rogan Experience and implied that he was skeptical of the idea. Rogan made the remark in episode 2236 of his podcast and was released on Thursday and featured fellow podcasters Shane Gillis, Mark Norman, and Ari Shaffir as guests. The remark came up after Rogan sparked controversy, suggesting Zelenskyy was part of the group that's trying to start World War III. That's actually the United States. Zelensky's just doing what he's told. F you, man. I don't want him on my show. During his latest podcast, referring to the podcast, he added Zelenskyy tried to come on, sparking a shocked reaction from his podcast guests. They tried to get Zelenskyy on. I was like, what are you talking about? Rogan went on to discuss the process for booking agent for a show without elaborating about Zelenskyy's offer. Newsweek contacted Joe Rogan Experience and President Zelenskyy by online contact form and email, respectively. Nobody replied. Rogan says Zelenskyy says Putin is terrified. F you, man. F you, people. You people are trying to start World War III. Yeah, they are. You know, I think what's his name? The guy with the ultra thin skin that everyone thinks super smart. Lex Friedman is going to Ukraine to platform Volodymyr Zelenskyy so he can, I don't know, ask for another billions of dollars to the United States to fund his war that he'll probably get because Joe Biden's fled the country. But the whole thing is just weird. I think that Joe is not stupid. I think he's an average intelligence guy, just like anyone else, just like myself. And that's why he's so relatable. Even PewDiePie understands. That's why it makes him popular. I think calling him dumb is very stupid. I don't think dumb people build a giant podcasting empire. I'd be willing to bet that Joe Rogan is not dumb about fighting techniques, the UFC, jiu-jitsu. I bet you he's not dumb about podcasting. I bet you he's not dumb about, you know, hundreds of things. So it's kind of weird, out of touch, but I'm sure glad that he said no to Zelenskyy. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.